Hey, it's time for TV Skywriter. Greetings all, good evening, and welcome to TV Skywriter. I'm Pat Murray, your host. I publish the Durham Skywriter, that's Durham, North Carolina's online community paper. And this is TV Skywriter, where I introduce you to really cool people. Just to let you know, even though my guests are in Durham, you can be on TV Skywriter from anywhere. But it just so happens that half of my guests are local and half of them are not. But today our guests are local, and we have a dynamic mother-daughter team. We have Pastor Linda Smith and her daughter Victoria Spencer, and we'll be talking about grief and loss. That's going to be a free workshop that's going to be given on the 30th of this month by our two dynamic guests. So please take it away, Pastor Linda Smith and Victoria Spencer. Just tell us who you are. Give us a little introduction.
Well, I'm Pastor Linda Smith, and I'm the senior pastor of Gates of Praise Christian Church. And I was ordained in 2013 as an elder, and I was ordained as a senior pastor in June of 2012. And basically, some of my background, a little of my background, I'm sitting on several boards. On God's Generals Board, which is a board that my late senior pastor husband, Archie Smith, was the visionary of that board. And I'm also a founder and member of that board, and also the treasurer sitting on that board. Also, I'm a member of CAPS International Ministry, and basically that's an organization under the leadership of Bishop Betts out of Oxford. And also I sit on another board, which is Global International Ministries. And that's a local ministry here in the city where we do global international ministry, where we go overseas in different areas to minister to different women's conference and different organizations as well.
Wow.
My background education is I just graduated last year from Northeast Regional Bible College in Oxford, North Carolina, which I have a diploma in biblical studies. And I'm currently working on my Master's of Divinity School with the concentration in pastoral counseling as well. Also, my current background, I have a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting, where I have had several designations, several awards, sat on various boards as well. I have certification as a foreclosure specialist, short sale specialist, and various areas in the accounting arena. Also, I am the owner of Classic Realtor, where I love working with people, helping them get in and out of homes, even when they're in foreclosure, trying to help them save their homes. Bankruptcy, great entrepreneur in so many other areas, gifted and talent, also in financial counseling and different things also in that area. And a little bit about my personal life. I was married to the late Pastor Archie Smith for 32 years, which was gorgeous. My best friend, my heartbeat, just my all in all. I met him in college, and it was awesome. And through that union, we have 5 awesome, gorgeous, drop-dead, beautiful daughters.
Oh, my goodness.
And also, I have 3 awesome son-in-laws. Woo-hoo! And praise God. And 2 awesome grandsons. So
Wow.
it's just a lot. I love family, and I just enjoy life.
Love that. That's the best introduction I've ever heard. So, Victoria, how about you?
Well, I am currently a newlywed. So I'm married.
Congratulations.
So thank you so much to Brandon Spencer. I actually serve as a board member here at Gates of Praise Christian Church. I'm also the praise and worship leader here at Gates of Praise. Some of my educational background includes receiving my Master's of Social Work at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. With a concentration in interpersonal practice with children, youth, and families, and also a minor in management. I received my bachelor's degree from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro in psychology with a minor in human development and family studies. I'm currently licensed as a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed clinical addiction specialist associate. I have had over about 8 years in the mental health and substance abuse field, really working with children, youth, and families, doing various different positions as a clinician, also being able to be a program and clinical director, also doing some trainings, a resource coordinator, doing a lot of marketing because we definitely have to get referrals in, and also being able to volunteer in my spare time at a hospice and bereavement agency, and also being involved in a crisis line. So I'm definitely excited to be here and to be able to share some things about grief and loss with everybody in the Durham community.
Wow. When I said dynamic, I wasn't kidding. So this grief and loss workshop, again, it's going to be held on Sunday, July 30th at the church, Gates of Praise Christian Church on 2524 North Carolina, Highway 50. I'm just used to saying Highway 55. Some people still say Apex Highway?
It just depends on whether you're using the GPS. Some GPS say Apex Highway, and some you have to put the 2524 NC Highway 55.
Oh boy. Apex is really old school. So when I looked over the information that you sent me, I was kind of surprised because a lot of us, when we think of grief and loss, we think about basically rolling up in a ball and just crying your eyes out. But you're also talking about business, what you have to do. And I'm just going to tell a very quick story. This really struck me because my grandmother told me that one day she's going to the movies with her husband, my step grandfather. He died in the theater.
Oh, wow.
She had to save the business because that was the family's bread and butter. My dad was still a kid.
Yes, wow.
So she had to learn about, he had 2 pharmacies on the south side of Chicago.
Wow.
E.G. Woods. And she had to she lost one because the vultures descended right away. Right away. So she was able to save one. She hired a man that she could trust, and he really worked for her for like 50 years or so. And then eventually he inherited, or I guess purchased it from her. His name was Sidney Perry, but she had to, she could not afford to just grieve and just, she had to take care of business. And so I suppose that's what you're going to do with this workshop, to teach people that you got to cry and get it out, but you have to look out for your future and your kids' futures as well. So where do you want to start? Did you want to start with the different stages of grief?
I'm going to let Vicki just talk about 4 different areas of grief and loss. And also with that, when people look at grief and loss, it's not just death, because you can be grieving and loss off a job loss. You can be grieving and loss off of a financial loss. You can be grieving a loss even off of a personal health loss. When you deteriorating in your health, you can really go into a state of depression and grief and loss. And I think a lot of times when people look at grief and loss, they only look at death. But in so many other areas, you can go through grief and loss in a divorce. And people don't understand that. Because if you were married and you didn't work, and all of a sudden you are divorcing and you have to go look for an employment and look at maintaining a lifestyle that you had, it could throw you into a state of grief and loss.
I can imagine.
So it's so many different areas that we are going to share on this seminar on grief and loss. And we're going to use the same principles, but they're going to be directed or really pointing to different areas of grief and loss. So we're going to let Victoria share the 4 areas of grief and loss and some points in that area that you need to sort of look at, and some things that we are going to really work into that area and get some points across to really help you move through and transition through that area.
Okay.
I think, before I get started, the main thing to really realize when you're talking about grief and loss, and what I usually try to let all of my patients and clients know, that everybody grieves differently. So, having that mindset when you're going in, like Pastor Linda said, that there's so many different types of grief and loss. And so that's usually what we're really going to focus on with this particular seminar, to be able to go through the different types of grief and loss and what those types look like. And then being able to recognize the different signs and symptoms that may be associated with them. And also helping people to realize and know their triggers. Sometimes people can be triggered by different sounds, noise, anniversary dates. It's just so many different things that could possibly go into that. So those are some things that we're really going to kind of have as a key to be able to go through some of those things. And then
But do you know these triggers before they happen? Do you know that something's going to set you off? Or, how do you deal with it?
So usually what we try to do is, that's where conversation goes in regards to the healing process. And so being able to talk with someone through certain things and being able to know who to talk to. Sometimes we get the wrong advice at times, when we're going through a very difficult time. So being able to know who to talk to, and I'm going to be giving some reference points, hopefully being able to share some different support groups within the community that people can go with and talk to and share, and being able to recognize what those triggers could possibly be. And then looking at the different stages and how people move through those stages, and being able just to be able to get just kind of some do's and some don'ts when you're going through a grief and a loss.
Okay. I have to ask you this, because sometimes people say, so-and-so didn't cry. And they feel that's the worst thing. Is that the worst thing, when a person doesn't cry after a loss, and that could include divorce? If they just have like that stiff upper lip, is that good or bad?
You know what? It just depends on the individual in regards to the relationship that they have, because you can have the same individual go through a certain loss where they had a divorce. And then you can also have a friend who went through that same type of divorce. But depending on the relationship that they had with that particular person as they departed, and whether or not they ended on good terms, or whether or not they felt like that particular marriage was already over before the actual divorce paperwork started. So it's a lot of different things that goes into that. And those can be some questions. If people have those, most definitely bring that to the seminar. Ask whatever you would like to be able to ask. And if I could hopefully answer and give some light, then that's exactly what I plan to do.
That's great. That's really great.
Right.
So continue. You have 4 points. Was that the first point?
Well, I think I kind of went through some of them as I was talking.
Okay,
I didn't
that was good.
say each point, but yeah.
Well, I really think that grief, again, you really widened the scope of what grief really could be. I was only thinking death.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
And I think for what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go at a broad vision first, but then actually go down a little bit more specifically when you're talking about a death of a loved one, like you had mentioned before. And, kind of where do we go from here? Like you had mentioned with your story in regards to, she had to continue to go on because she had a family to provide for, and she had to figure out what she was going to go and what steps she was going to take in regards to maintaining her family. And so those are some of the things that Pastor Linda is actually going to go into in regards to a checklist, in regards to what people need to be able to do. Even though you're grieving, there's still some things that have to take place, and it has to be done in a timely manner as well, unfortunately.
Okay. I'd like for, if Pastor Linda, if you want to take this on, and I know I wanted to warn you to not give away too much, so the people don't sit here and get all the information, don't go to the workshop. But one thing that we're talking about on a personal level, I was saying how I made a big mistake when my aunt died. We didn't have much money between us. She had all of her money stolen. She had Alzheimer's. That's why I moved down here. I didn't arrive here with much because I was only working part-time. I had quit my job to care for my mom right before she died. So I put our money together. We only had a couple $100 between us. So I figured, what the heck? So I put them on the same bank account. No big deal. I had power of attorney, not knowing, and this is what people need to know if they're in the kind of predicament I was. let's see what happened. Oh, power of attorney ends with the person's death.
Right. That's
which
correct.
means I almost lost the house because the money was frozen.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get to my money. I couldn't say, well, half of that's mine. No, it didn't
Right.
matter. It didn't matter. They froze the account because, again, power of attorney ends with the death of the person.
That's correct. And it's so many different terms that goes with that. They think the power of attorney is just forever, but it's not. So it's very important that we are educated on the terminology and the steps and different things that need to take place. When a person is sick, the first thing that we also need to look at, whether that person has a will, how they want to disperse things. Because it's several ways. They can have a will or they not have a will, whether they die intestate or intestate. So it's different.
What does that mean?
Basically, one means that you have a will and the other one means that you do not have a will.
Okay.
And if you have a will, it goes much smoother. So whenever you have a will after the person dies, it's so many things that you can alleviate and don't have to go through. Only when you have a will, you go to the courthouse, you go to the state's office, and you begin to process the paperwork. And if you have a will and the person have laid out the way they want things to be done, it's much easier from that standpoint. And make sure when you're looking at the person's account, personal bank accounts, you're right, everything is frozen if it's in that person's name, unless you have the right of survivorship. Whenever you open those accounts, you have to have those signature to a card signed with the right of survivorship. And people do not understand that. And when stuff is frozen, it takes 7 to 14 days for you to begin to really start moving forward again. And if you don't have
it took longer than that to straighten it out.
It just depends on what you have to do.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on what you have to do. If they have a will, sometime it goes a little faster. It depends on who you know. It goes a little faster as well from that standpoint, because they can sort of cut through some of the steps in doing what needs to be done. So I tell people that when a person is sick, and when we all going to do one thing or two things when we die, we're going to pay taxes and we're going to die. That's normal. So whenever we begin to plan things, we need to put a will in place. We really do. So because a lot of times when a person dies, you are going through so many changes, and a lot of times you are not together mentally. So you need to begin to do as less as possible by the person taking care of a lot of things and putting things in place for you. And if you have a will and if you have your bank account set up, so if something happened to you, that person can come in and just go ahead and start using the money and do what needs to be done. Start paying expenses and paying the mortgage. And because if the person have been sick and in the hospital for a while, it might be a couple of months, that the mortgage need to be paid. The utility bills need to be paid. Different things, your car payment need to be paid. Even though you're in the hospital, the debtors is not going to say, oh, you in the hospital, you just catch up when you get out.
I don't think they're that nice.
Bills continue to go on. And you have to make sure that you have an executor of the estate. That's the term that you need to begin to put things in place. So that person is a person that's responsible. That person is a person that you can trust, that will handle your business and would not blow your money. So you know who you need to put in place. So when you begin to look at a will, you need to think long and hard who you put in place over your estate, because you work long and hard to get your money and you don't want people to just blow it. So you need to begin to
and you don't want people to fight over it, because
yes.
whole families break up over money, don't they?
All the time. And that's because a lot of things were not spelled out. Oh, mama told me I'm supposed to have the car. No, I'm going to have the car. And most of the time, it's the person that didn't do anything in the family. Those are the ones that want everything.
Call them out.
So it's very important that you begin to lay out things. Try to lay out bank accounts. Try to lay out 401ks. Make sure you begin to review things like that yearly. Make sure that you haven't left your ex-husband on your 401k, and then when you die, the family's fighting over it, and he shows up and his name is still on it. Make sure that you have changed your insurance policies. It's so many things that you don't think about. Make sure that you have looked at your bank accounts. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you have enough insurance that your family do not have to suffer. To me, it's really bad when you leave and don't leave no insurance policy, and you have to go around waiting on the person to be buried 2 weeks because you don't have no money to bear. You going around trying to get a loan
or a GoFundMe campaign, which is really
yes, a GoFundMe, which is 3 to 5% that you pay fees on that, or put everybody in the room and pass the offering plate and let everybody come up and try to help you bury that person.
Wow.
It doesn't make sense.
There's one more thing I want you to touch on. Again, we're not giving the whole seminar now, but I did want people watching the show today, because they're not all in Durham. Yes. And I really want you to speak a little bit on this, either of you. And that is, I know back home in Chicago, very often, if your parent or old elderly relative starts getting old, sick, whatever, they get the house in a quick claim, and they think that that's all they have to do. But you told me something yesterday. It's not that simple.
It's not that simple. Once you get older, I just really would recommend you need to seek legal advice, and also you need to consult with your children or whoever you planning on leaving stuff to. But once you get up in age, parents really need to think about how they're going to leave their real estate. Because if a person needs Medicaid or major illness or major care in your older age, and if you have property, any assets, that's the first thing that Medicare or Medicaid or insurance companies look at.
Oh.
They have to dissolve that first. So once you get up in age and you realize I'm not going to do anything, I'm through investing pretty much, I'm just taking one day at a time. I would recommend that you seek legal advice and look at deeding your house out of your name, deeding the real estate out of your name, and only just have a living life estate in those properties. That means as long as you're living, you can do whatever you want to do with the property, with that life estate. You can stay in there as long as you're living. But soon as you die, that property will be deeded over into whoever name that you put the property in. And also it can be multiple names as well. And another good thing, you won't have to deal with the state taxes as well.
Oh.
It just transfer right on over. That does not have to go on your estate paperwork when you file as well. But if you don't deed that property over and you get sick and you need to go on Medicaid or into a nursing home because the kids won't take care of you, the first thing they're going to do is begin to tap into the equity on that property.
Do they have the right to sell it?
They have the right to sell it if they put you into a nursing home, or your kids have a right to pay that monthly bill. And most of the time they don't have the money for the monthly bill. So what they would do, they will put you into that nursing home. But if they die, then what they would do is attach whatever amount your nursing home bill is. So when they sell that property, they will get their money first.
Because that's thousands per month. I mean, nursing homes are not
Nursing
cheap.
homes usually run on an average at least about $5,000 a month.
A month?
A month. Yes, a month. I had a client, and basically she had one adopted daughter. She was in a nursing home, and the nursing home they added that house, her personal house, to her paperwork. When she died, she had an executive of the estate. They sold the house. The nursing home took $35,000. They negotiated. She stayed there and had a bill bigger than that, but they negotiated $35,000. So out of the estate, they took $35,000, and the adopted daughter and the family and the executive of the estate got the rest of it.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. And some houses are only worth $35,000.
Yes.
I mean,
so
really, a lot of houses around here are very
recommend
low cost.
that you just deed it out of your name, and give yourself a living estate or living right in that property. And it has to be out of your name. It used to be 3 years. Now it's 5 years.
But how do you know you're going to be in a nursing home in 5 years?
Well, you don't know. You just have to sort of figure out how you want your life to go. Wow. You can't figure it out, because just say you 55. You say, okay, I'm not going to do anything else in my life, pretty much big. So what I'm going to do.
Don't give up at 55. Don't do it.
Just say you're 60. And you say, okay, I think I'm going to just deed my house over to my children. And I'm going to just put myself on there as long as I'm living, I can stay in the property, and when I'm die, it automatically goes to them. I'm just going to put myself on as a living estate on this property.
That's a smart
So
move.
just say 60. Okay, 65. Just say 65. All of a sudden, you diagnosed with terminal cancer at 65. Okay, all of a sudden, that house has washed. That house is no longer yours at that time. They cannot attach any of those medical bills to you at that time.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, here's another thought. A lot of people are living here in Durham or wherever. Their kids are grown. They have college degrees. They have better houses, if you want to call it that, in other cities. They really don't want your house. They don't need it. There's something called reverse mortgage. I know we're not supposed to be talking about real estate.
Really popular now. That is really popular. It used to be just 1 or 2 programs with that, but now they have really changed that whole setup. And a lot of people that if the kids don't want to come back and the parents want to live lavish, say, I done worked all my life, I just want to enjoy, my home, is paid for. I can take 60% of equity out of my house and only leave 40% in there. And I don't have to pay that payment. I don't have to pay anything. So as long as I live, I will get a check back each month.
Okay, let me try to understand this.
One solid lump sum payment.
Okay, wait a minute, I'm not totally understanding this. So you own your house outright.
You own your house.
You paid for it, which means you are deeding it to somebody else.
To the mortgage
getting it
company.
every month.
What they will do, you deeding it to the mortgage company, stating that if your children or whoever you leaving this house to, if they don't pay what you owe on this mortgage, or what loan or what money you have taken out against this house, then I can take the house.
Oh, you're taking on a mortgage. I thought reverse mortgage meant you don't owe on the house, you pay for it. I thought it simply meant that the bank was going to own your house and they give you a check every month. I thought that's not what it means.
They can do, it's so many different programs. They can give you a check each month.
Yeah, that's the way it is in Chicago a lot of
Yeah,
times.
you can get a check.
The bank knows that's their house and they're going to sell it when you die. That means you already have told your kids that you've talked about it. They don't want the house. You both understand that the children don't want the house. And so you approach the bank, and then the bank appraises your house.
Correct.
And then they say it's worth whatever amount, and we'll pay you the bank pays the person every month.
That's correct.
And then when they die, then the bank gets the house.
The bank has the option to get the house, or the kids have the option to pay everything that the parents have borrowed from the bank and get the house back.
Okay.
It's an option.
Okay.
But if the kids don't want to pay what the parents have already borrowed against the house, then the bank take the house plus the equity that's left.
That's a good deal if you're single, right?
Well, I've seen it in a lot of times if people have like handicapped kids where they can't leave it to them, or if the parents do not have kids, so, it's no big deal for that. But now I'm seeing it with people that have kids that don't want to move back to that area. I'm seeing it, a lot of them are doing it with that now. So I'm seeing different things, but reverse mortgage is really becoming popular in the last few years.
It's interesting because I wrote about reverse mortgages a long time ago. And in fact, the attorney I interviewed said it's not really popular yet. I think this is like 10, 12 years ago.
Yes.
And so I think I kind of jumped the gun, but I wouldn't mind writing about it again.
I think once you begin to write about it again, you'll see so many different options on it now. And it was like a negative before, but now I think it's more positive and more options, and it's more lucrative there now, because it used to be the parents would get a monthly check, but you can get a lump sum. You can get like $30,000 and just say, this is all I want out of it. And just tell your kids, I got a $30,000 loan. You can pay this $30,000 loan off, and you can have the other $100,000 equity. If you don't want to do that, the bank will take it off. So it's different things. You can get a monthly payment. You can get a lump sum, or, whatever now. Okay. And a lot of people are doing it to buy houses and downsize.
Oh, how does that work?
They take all of the equity out of the house, and then they get a month, get the money and buy another house. And then they don't have to pay it back unless they want to pay it back. And they might rent the house out. It's so lucrative. It's so many different changes on it now.
Good too, because a lot of people are downsizing.
Yeah, a lot of people downsizing. They're going from the big 2-story houses to 1-story or a townhouse.
A lot of people who live near NCCU need your advice, because I used to live over there, 404 Brant Street, which is now the new dormitory over there at NCCU.
Yes.
And friends of mine have showed me houses that are still vacant, filled with furniture and clothes, left as the parents left them, because the kids are still fighting over these houses.
Yes.
Decades.
Yes.
20 and 30 years, these houses have been sitting empty.
It is really hard when they're fighting over it, because it has to be some type of resolution to move forward in that arena. If they fighting over it, it's nothing really you can do, because we have to have some type of closure to move forward in that arena. Yes.
Getting back to the workshop, this is great information. I really hope people are taking notes, or at least they'll watch the replay with pen and pencil and in hand. But I'm curious about this grief and loss workshop, which of course will be held on Sunday, July 30th, 5 to 7 here in Durham, North Carolina, at Gates of Praise Christian Church, 2524 Highway 55. It's free, right?
But, yes, it's free.
So, Victoria, are there any special things that veterans should know or people who are spouses of veterans in terms of what they have to do in case of, we're talking about grief, not necessarily death, but I'm sure there are special rules for veterans, for military veterans.
Well, definitely the military and the veteran population see grief and loss more apparently than an everyday normal person, more than likely, because they're definitely in that particular environment where a lot of things are happening. So the best thing that I can tell people to do is definitely reach out to the mental health professional population. They definitely have a VA that's very helpful. They have a lot of support groups and other things specifically just for the veteran population. So I think that that's really key for them to really utilize those resources that they do have.
Do you think that military couples talk about this sort of thing in advance? I mean, I'd be terrified if my spouse were sent over to, the Middle East or whatever. Do you think they talk about such things, or do you think they just hope for the best? And what do you suggest they do?
Well, I would say, just for everybody in general, grief and loss is a type of thing that nobody really likes to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about death. So it really depends on the individual family. I would definitely encourage everyone, not just the military population, to be able to talk about death, to be able to prepare for, what may happen, because this world is very uncertain. I mean, you can, like you said, your person died in a movie theater. That was definitely unexpected. So you have to be able to take into consideration that there are so many different things that could possibly happen. The key really for grief and loss is really to communicate and plan. And that's the biggest thing that anybody can really do at this point.
Wow. One thing we don't expect is for children to die.
Right.
It's sadly, I know every time people hear about Chicago, it's about something bad, something violent. But I will today acknowledge that usually I kind of I don't like for people to associate Chicago only with violence, but it's reality. A lot of young people are dying, and unfortunately, what's happening in certain neighborhoods in Chicago, parents are learning to take out insurance policies for their children. Is that something that is happening beyond the south side of Chicago or the west side of Chicago? Is that becoming a thing?
Yes, I really think it is, because now with kids, the insurance policy, and especially on term life, is so cheap for kids that's under 18 or pretty much under 30. It's so cheap. So I think a lot of insurance companies now are adding riders to their parents or to adult policies that you can take out on kids for pretty much $3 or $4 a month, and even if you get a higher amount of insurance, it's free. So I think a lot of parents are looking at taking out a $10,000 policy on kids now, even at baby stage. And now Gerber has been around for hundreds of years. Gerber Baby Food, they have an insurance company. And they have it. And I know a lot of my friends, even before I had kids, they would take out that policy when they were a baby, because it was like a penny a pound for every dollar. Like if the baby was 7 pounds, you're only looking at 70 cents a month. And they take that policy. Yeah, they take that policy out until the kid is 18 to 21. But the premium doesn't change. So they take it out when they're a baby. And that's how, as soon as you have a baby, they send it to the grandparents. Everybody get the Gerber insurance policy. And that has really been a big trend.
I'm not a parent. I didn't know. Wow.
Yes.
Because I know some people feel that it's being fatalistic or negative to take out insurance on your child. But my brother died at 21, so you never know who's going to die and when.
Yes, yes.
So, and of course, my parents did not see it coming.
Right.
Yes,
none of us were prepared. So, and he wasn't like a gangbanger. He fell. He fell. He had a terrible fall. And that's how he died.
Yes.
So nobody saw it coming. And I guess when you have kids, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yes, yes.
I mean, you're blessed to be able to keep your child with you, or at least alive. for as long as possible, but you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yes.
So what other things you're going to talk about in your grief and loss that you want us to know about? Because we can wind this up in a couple of minutes. But
basically, I just want everyone to go online to www.gatesofpraisenc.com. You can register there. And basically, when we register, we're trying to plan for everybody to make sure that we have good literature and we have a few refreshments here for you as well. And we just want to make sure that we are here to accommodate you there. And with this grief and loss seminar, I just want to tell you, you won't be disappointed. You will not be disappointed. It is worth your 2 hours of time. So even if you don't have an immediately grief or loss in your family, or a financial loss, or divorce, or you might know somebody. I'm sure you know somebody that's going through that. And I'm going to tell you, we have to destroy ignorance in our community. It's nothing like having the knowledge. It's nothing like having the information to share with people when they begin to fall on hard times. And people always wonder, and they always say, well, Pastor Linda, how you know so much? It's because I read. It's because I look for information. Not that I'm going through all of these situations, but we have to be knowledge in every area, because we never know when we will have to begin to share that information to the community, to family, to loved ones, just people you don't even know. So we have to get the information out. And that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to get it out to the community. It's not about you coming to our church. It's about us just sharing that information, getting that information out to the community, getting that information out to the public.
That's why I wanted you to give your credentials, because between the two of you, I mean, we're talking about social work, real estate, accounting, pastor,
bankruptcy, foreclosure, credit reports, you know. And another thing, I went through a personal testimony for myself, so it's not like that I didn't know. I just know you just all over the place for 3 months after death. You don't know which end is up. So you have to make sure that you are doing the right things. You have to make sure that you're not doing the wrong things, because you can make deadly decisions and wrong decisions so fast that it could be life-changing decisions. So we have to make sure that we are making the right decisions on everything we do in that arena of grief and loss. No matter what area that we are in, we are making that right decision. And any major decision in that area, we need to take at least 6 months before we make any major changes in our life as far as grief and loss. Because you're not thinking, you're not emotionally straight, you're not mentally straight, you're not physically straight. You're just going through the motion. And with the stages of grief, a lot of times you'll flop back and forth on different stages. You know, you're okay one day, then then 2 months later, you know, you're a bucket of tears. So we want to make sure that you are stable before you're moving forth to the next stage. And that's what we are here for.
So divorce or death or whatever does not have to mean that all of your hopes for the future are dashed. Because I will give you a progress report. My grandmother obviously made the right choices, because my dad, he was just a kid, but he got to go to college. He still got to go he wanted to go to college. He still got to go. And everything was cool. He grew up just fine.
Yes. Yes. There is life after grief and loss. Enjoy life.
Definitely. So let's give these details one more time before we go. There's going to be a grief and loss workshop. It's going to be free. It's going to be Sunday, July 30th, from 5 until 7 p.m. at the Gates of Praise Christian Church, and the address is 2524 Highway 55, and that's right just south of Riddle Road and
Yes.
Highway 55.
Mhm.
So thank you so much, Pastor Linda Smith. And then we did not mention that you helped us get into this house. That's how we met.
Yes. Awesome.
Mhm.
Still there.
Still here. And Victoria Spencer, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank
Both
you.
of you are incredibly knowledgeable. And if you don't mind, I wish you would come back on a later show because, I mean, I've got to tap into this knowledge you have, if you don't mind.
No problem. No problem. We would love to come back.
Most definitely.
Wonderful. Thanks again. Okay, folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode of TV Skywriter. And if you'd like to be a guest, all you have to do is to write to me. The quickest way is via Twitter at Durham Skywriter. And I will also ask that you read the Durham Skywriter, even if you're not in Durham. It's an online community paper that is all positive. Check DurhamSkywriter.com. With that, have a beautiful evening. Thanks again, Linda Smith, Victoria Spencer. Have a great evening. Ciao for now, and I will see you.
Same to you.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao for now. Bye.